We have John Hill here, our amazing VP of Network, and he is going to do a walkthrough on how to better leverage your LinkedIn to access your networks. John, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, you should see my screen, correct, Christy?
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect. So, first of all, thank you. And we're in interesting times. I'm doing this instead of in a studio or on stage from my home office. But I would love to take 5 or 10 minutes and just show some of the ways that I look at LinkedIn data around a economy. So, say around a city or around an area. And how I would utilize this tool to both leverage some of the opportunities through the Techstars network, but also to be able to do an audit of all of the relational capital associated with your region. So one of the easiest tools to do this on is LinkedIn. So I'm going to spend the time here. And LinkedIn continues to grow at a pretty exorbitant rate, closing in on 700 million users. And it affords you the ability to really parse information by vertical, by skill, by connectivity of people within the platform. And so it becomes invaluable. I'm going to utilize both Buffalo and Taiwan as a lens. And so bear with me as we kind of go through here. But first thing I wanted to start with is the people search. I want to take a look at the people who are in my network or overall at a high level. So let's look at just a location. If I come down here, I can type in Buffalo and I can apply. And you'll see that there are 391,000 people in the Buffalo region that are on LinkedIn. So pretty broad amount of numbers. And an interesting way that you could use this information is to start to parse this out by their selectivity of industry. So if I come over here into the filters, I can look at all the industries that are related. And so one that's near and dear to my heart, I'd be interested in seeing anybody who's associated with venture capital. And so if I hit apply, I now have the 181,000 people that are related to venture capital that live in the Buffalo region, and I can see how I relate to each one of those people. One of the ways that I can use this data is I could do comparatively what this looked like against, say, Albany, or what this looked like against Louisville or Raleigh. By percentage, how many people do we have who are saying that they're venture by dividing into the overall population. And so it gives you an idea of how you stack against other markets based on how people are saying that they're affiliated with an industry. So just an interesting way to utilize this. So I'm going to swing back here again, and this is the 391,000 people in Buffalo. And I'm a big believer in showing connectivity of relationships. Most opportunity through relationships comes out of not who you know, but who they know, connection of a connection, second level connection. And so I want to see my connection density in a market. If I hit these two things and hit apply, I can see that I connect to 1,700 people either at a direct or indirect relationship in Buffalo. So it gives me an idea of the social capital that I carry in that market. It's a good thing for all the people who are trying to connect people together for opportunity to know how to do this and actually see what their depth of relationship is within a specific market. I'm going to take connections out of this. And one thing that may not be apparent, but is available here, is you can search out of these sets. So there's 391,000 people. Say I were really interested in something that wasn't an industry filter, but say a skill set. So if I were looking for anybody who has nanotechnology on their profile that live in Buffalo, I now have the 415 people that pop up. And you can see, for instance, Taylor Allen, the first one, is computer science nanotechnology. So he's working for a degree into that. But I can start to get really esoteric by skill set. I can also get deep by affiliation. And so an affiliation that's near and dear to my heart, Techstars, If I do a search on that, I can see the 22 people who are related to Techstars that have a profile on LinkedIn that live in Buffalo or the greater Buffalo region. And again, if I clear this out, I can then see the entire Techstars network. And so if I come in here, I now have the 19,000 people that are associated with Techstars that have a profile on LinkedIn. And this is globally, right? Vast majority of these people are going to be Techstars staff, founders, mentors, the exact people you want to connect into broader and bring into your respective ecosystems, either Buffalo or Taiwan. And so if I pop down here to all filters, I can then do something very similar to what we did before and look at the venture community beyond Buffalo. So I was able to see what my slice looked like in Buffalo. Now I can see it for Techstars at all. And so if I hit apply on that, I have the 1,300 people at Techstars that are associated with venture, which is, nearly 4 times or a little bit more than 4 times the amount that I had in the Buffalo region alone. And you can see how that's additive. Now I can start to find the people who have the industries or skills that may not be available in my market that I can pull into. And again, utilizing that connectivity model, so seeing all those people who are first level connection, direct connection, or connection of connection, a weak tie, the second level connection, I can see I reach about 1,100 people in the Techstars network. That's actually a lot. 1,100 people in the Techstars network at a first or second level that are associated with venture. And so I can start to use both my relational amplification alongside the industry with an affiliation like Techstars. And again, LinkedIn doesn't do a great job of showcasing this in walkthroughs, so that's why I'm trying to showcase how you can do it yourself. But it's a great inventory for you to connect into. So I'm going to take this into a different lens, which is a university lens. And I come up here. This is actually the team I was on when I worked at LinkedIn, was the university initiative. And we built all these tools that I'm going to show you. But we can look at universities within a market and really start to drive down on deep data points that could be helpful for Buffalo or Taiwan. And so here, if I come down to the alumni page, it'll show me all the alumni of an institution in the market that I'm in, by where they live, where they work, what they do, what they're skilled at, how I'm connected to them. So I can start to get really deep into the alumni base of people who have already connected to my region. Some of these people may have left, but that's okay. Like your easiest people to bring back into a market are those that have already been there in the past. And so I'll show you some ways that I could use this, and we'll stay on the venture track here. So there are 148,000 people who graduated from University of Buffalo, and I can see where they live, where they work. I'm going to come over here to what they do, what they studied, and go to what they're skilled at. And here I can type in venture capital, similar to what we did before. And what I see out of University of Buffalo is 370 people who are attached to venture capital by where they live, where they work, what they do. If I wanted to inventory those people in San Francisco, so they're outside of the Buffalo region, I can click on this line and it'll show me the 33 people in venture that went to University of Buffalo that live in the Bay Area and how I relate to each one of them in year of graduation. And so all of a sudden, you've now found a third way to ascertain venture capital, and you can do this with any industry or any skill set. I'm just showing you an example of that. But a third way to slice and dice the data on LinkedIn to get to the specific groups that I want to get into. So where this becomes invaluable, especially if I'm trying to bring people back into an ecosystem for thought leadership or subject matter expertise, is I can start to see those people who are successful out of this market in companies that we're interested in associating with. So for instance, I might want to look at Google. And if I click on this, I can now see the 210 alumni that graduated from University of Buffalo. So they used to be in my region that now work at Google. And then I can look at, say, those in the Bay Area. And I've got the 117 people that went to University of Buffalo that work at Google. If I scroll over here, I can see what they do, what they studied, what they're skilled at. So let's say I'm really interested in those people that work in business development that might be able to connect my startups in Buffalo to an organization like Google. I select that, and I now have the three people who represent that. And I can see, for instance, Christopher is administrative business partner at Google. I have no idea what that title means, but I have a shared connection. So if I click on this, I can look at his profile and see what his role is. He's in Mountain View. Carrie Beers connects me with him. Carrie used to work at Techstars, so good relationship to have. It looks like he's doing something around recruitment in some way, shape, or form. And I'm guessing that he was connected to Divide Ventures, which is actually a program that Techstars has partnered with um, in the past. And so like I can start to see all the associations and connections that I can pull from outside into my market. And again, like utilize this for action for my startups in a market. Utilize this for connectivity for thought leadership or subject matter expert, or potentially recruit back for time, talent, and treasure into the Buffalo region. And just a interesting lens to start to break out here. Another way that I could like cross like survey against other markets is I could look at what my graduates are doing on a year-to-year basis. So I could look at the graduates in the last year and do a search, and I can see where they live, where they're getting jobs post-graduation. I can look at just my graduates and say computer science, and I can see where they went and what jobs they're getting. So you've got a bunch of people going to Amazon. Potentially there's a partnership between Buffalo and Amazon because you're sourcing a lot of talent in that direction. And so I can start to read this data to see some of my strengths in industry and really lean into those strengths. Now, say I were interested in seeing all the associations with Buffalo, with Amazon. If I go down here and just click on one of these people, I can actually click on the company page of Amazon, and it's going to bring me into it's going to bring me into their overall company page. I can see the number three company at top company in LinkedIn to work for. I can see the 383,000. Oops, it's like I'm freezing for a second, Christy.
It's probably because you have so many tabs.
That probably doesn't help. There, I just slowed up for a second. I'm going to do it a different way. Bear with me. This is what happens when you have 4,000 tabs open.
I feel your pain.
So I'm going to do a search up here, which is a general search. So there are 22 million companies that are on LinkedIn, and this is going to take me into their company page. On the company page is a ton of valuable information. If I'm looking at recruiting them to my region or connecting with these companies to partner at some way, shape, or form, a couple things that I always recommend people do. Look at the life page. You're going to see a series of videos and presentations that Amazon is using to try to recruit talent to their company. What they use there is rhetoric that's very specific to their company. So they're giving you the way they talk about themselves internally within the company because they're using that to sell culture to other people. Take those words that you see and use them in your pitch to companies like Amazon because you're speaking their language. And so it's just a little trick that you can use. If you're looking at benchmarking against other companies, and especially your small and mid-sized business companies, if I come back to this homepage, LinkedIn compares the 6 companies that are most similar to to this company. And so with Amazon, it's pretty easy. We know it's like Google and Apple and things like that. But if you were looking at, say, small startups and you wanted to compare against other startups, this is a tool to do that. And better yet, you can see, say, your affiliations through University Lens, which we did, through connectivity, first and second level connections, through company alumni. So that some of these people are Techstars or LinkedIn. So you can start to see all your affiliations and how it connects with these company pages. Really cool thing that they did is they took that tool I just showed you and put it on every company page. So now I can see all of the employees at Amazon in this tool here by where they live, where they studied, what they do, what they're skilled at, and I can start to find the specific people I need to get to help me out. The really cool thing is this was by our developer team named John Hill in a Box. So this is my baby, and that's pretty awesome to see that. But here's a really cool thing that you could do with Amazon. You could just search all profiles. This is a run a profile search for the word buffalo. And anybody who's had an association with buffalo that works in Amazon doesn't mean that they live in Buffalo. It just means somewhere in their profile, the word buffalo resides. And so when I return that, I now have the 1,235 people at Amazon that have some association with the word buffalo. Pretty cool. I can see 655 of them actually went to the University of Buffalo. Say I wanted to dig a little bit deeper and I wanted to look at those people who are Amazon and have the word buffalo in their profile. And we'll play again with the venture profile, the venture capital space. So I come up here and type in venture capital and do a search. And I now have the 3 employees that have buffalo somewhere in their profile that work at Amazon that are associated with venture. Like if you see how deep and granular we can get with this information, I now have the type of people who might be able to help me out. And I can see, for instance, a general, let's see, head of global operations and marketing at Amazon, Deborah. And if I click on his profile, I can also see the connections that I have in common with him. One of them is Louis Houin, who works at Techstars. And I used to work at Amazon. And so I can get deeper into the connection and mobilize it from there. Chrissy, I'm going to stop there because I think that that's a pretty short encapsulation of some of the ways that you can use the data here through relationships, through a university lens, through a company lens, and the way that you can audit the relationships that you have that are either in Buffalo or outside of Buffalo or Taiwan or any of the markets that we're connecting into. Happy to do this with a regular cadence outside of this or expound on this on how you can inventory a market or a region and really support yourself there. So I will stop.
Awesome. Thank you. This has been super useful. I just have one final question before we stop recording. So when I started Techstars and when people start Techstars, I feel like they have a hard time feeling integrated with Techstars and integrated with the Techstars network. So just zooming out, like LinkedIn is an amazing tool and this has been awesome. Thank you for walking us through this today. But just what are some best practices and techniques just from a networking perspective on how to leverage Techstars or leverage your networks to help these founders?
Yep. So a couple things. Pretty much everybody who's rotating around Techstars, the organization, has motivations that are relatively easy to see. And so if you can play into those motivations, you're going to find opportunities. So with our founders, they're looking with help for business development, for funding, for talent. That would be no different than any of the companies on the ground in Buffalo or Taiwan, right? Our mentors are, when we've researched their motivations, they're interested in altruism, so giving back. They're interested in learning technological trends. So they want to see what the future looks like. And working with startups is essentially a crystal ball for that. They want qualified deal flow. So they want to find companies that they believe in and they've vetted and then they can invest in. Our investors, very easy. They're looking for qualified deal flow. Like that's it. Right? If we do that well, they're happy. Corporate partners, it's like a wide lane. Some of them are interested in all the things that we talked about before. They're interested in utilizing, startups as R&D to rub off innovation within their workforce. Again, to see the crystal ball of where things are trending in the future and stay ahead of competition. So if you know that and you want to reach into, say, the Techstars network to associate with that, like play into their motivation. So, by the way, would love to connect you into the Buffalo market. We have all these things that if you'd like to engage in, it'd be great to have you do it. And then give them something back. Here's a list of 5 companies that are really interesting that I think fit your portfolio. Here's some research that we've done that seems to dovetail with the type of research that you share or talk about in your social networks, right? And part of this is doing a little due diligence as part of the process. But I will say, the more you give, the more likely you are to receive in the back. And we have a simple mantra of give first. But I've been talking about this for about 15 years. And my saying was give, give, give with no expectation of receiving. And I'm a huge believer in pay it forward. All these things are pretty much similar as it relates to relational capital. Like, find out what they need, give it to them, and then open up the door for you to get what you need. The Techstars network, through an affiliation itself, like just with that Techstars name, and we saw this 19,000 people that were associated with Techstars on LinkedIn, is a relatively easy door opener. Like, we're all in it together, and we've all been brought up in that idea of give first. You just have to be able to search for the specific people that you're looking for that meet the needs that you have, not just shotgun approach, but be very focused on the people that you want to bring in and help you, whether it's through a company or a particular expertise, or an association that you want to connect into. That relational game that I showed you, first and second level connection, that's the most powerful way to go through this process. So generally, I'll use LinkedIn as a tool to identify the data, like who at my first level connects me with second level. Then I'll take it into email, text message, phone call, and say, hey, I really need to connect with this person. How do you know them? Do you mind making an introduction? I'll send you affordable to support me. And when this happens, it increases the chance that I connect with this person. And that's the game we're playing, is like, how do you leverage relationships to get where you need to go?
Amazing. Well,
I,
thank you so
I
much for
felt,
your
I felt like
time.
that was I felt like that was professorial. I didn't mean it to be, but
I loved it. Awesome. Well, we appreciate you. And if people have questions, John is always open to Voxers or emails. Feel free to reach out to him. So,
totally.
all
I
right.
am one of the most available people around, so feel free.
All right. Thank you.